Self-filming a hunt is not easy. There are many times when animals come walking through the woods and you have less than a minute to get your camera ready on the animal you're trying to shoot while also trying to use your equipment to take it at the same time, and you end up missing the shot. You can see right here that this has happened to me in this instance and many more. Fortunately, I have a new piece of equipment today that I think is going to help with this, and it already has in some videos you've seen, and that is the ScopeCam 2 in 4K. As the name implies, this is great to put on top of a scope, and that is because of the 40mm lens it has on it. To put this in perspective, a 10mm lens or 8mm lens is very widescreen, whereas 40, 50, 60, that's narrowing it down and that's essentially zoomed in. So this 40mm lens is great for anything between 50 to 100 yards and even up to about 150 yards. And with the addition of 4K, you can also zoom in post-production if you need to, and you get up to 4 times digital zoom on top of that as well. This camera is pretty durable. It's IP64, which means it does well against dust, and it can take splashing water. So if it rains on this, it's not going to hurt anything. On the back, you have an SD card slot and your Type-C charging port. Now this does have a built-in battery, so once it's dead, it's dead. However, I have found that this battery is pretty good. It lasts quite a long time, and on top of that, it does great in cold weather conditions, which is something I can't say for my GoPro batteries. Now once you go into the app after you get this camera and get it set up to your preference, all you have to do is slide this tab forward. That red light's going to come on and it's going to start vibrating, and you're recording. It's that simple. And when you're out in the field hunting, especially for those quick shots, you need something that's simplistic to use and ready to go at a moment's notice. After connecting the camera to the app, you can set your exposure. 2 is going to be way too high, it's going to blow out your image. -2 is too low. I set mine at -1, and I found this to be a pretty good balance overall for the camera. Now with ISO, just go ahead and set it to auto. As a general rule of thumb, the lower your ISO, the less grain you have in your image. If you are going to use ISO and set it manually, 400 is your max, generally speaking. You then have contrast, sharpness, white balance. These are all your personal preference. I like a little more contrast in my image. Field of view, I think if you're going to use wide or medium, that's going to be for shots 50 yards or closer, and you're going to use the narrow field of view for anything past 50 yards. It just sucks into the image a little bit better. Now you can digitally zoom in with this camera, however, I prefer not to. I simply leave it at ×1 zoom, and I can blow the image up in post-production if I want to zoom in on an object, because you're going to lose some quality when you do that. So just something to keep in mind. You also can shoot in 4K at 30 frames per second all the way down to 1080p at 120, which is great for bow hunters or something of that nature. I like to shoot in 4K. It gives me the most quality to edit from. And then your last setting that you're really going to use is the crosshairs. I like to turn mine off and then do some editing in post to add crosshairs to the footage later, and it looks nicer. You will need a Picatinny rail somewhere on your firearm to use this camera. I bought one, and this is just an adapter that goes around my scope. You can pick them up for a couple dollars. I will put an Amazon link in the description below. But now that it's on the scope, it was pretty easy to do. It's just a little push button system. You simply slide it on, twist this knob to tighten it down, and once you get it nice and tight, such as there, it's not going anywhere. You can hold the firearm from the camera and it's not going to move. Now you're ready to go out, you're set up, and all you have to do when you're out on your hunt, turn the camera on, it's vibrating, and you're ready to go. In the app, you can turn crosshairs on as a display, and it'll come up in your footage later. However, I would recommend keeping that off, and then later in post-production, you simply use a mask that has crosshairs in it and overlay that on your camera footage, and it always looks much more professional. To give you an example, here's some footage before and after I added that mask. I hope you enjoyed this quick overview of the ScopeCam 2 in 4K, and hopefully it provided some insight for you to decide whether it's the camera for you or not. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to share, like, subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.